Hi guys, Uncle Brandon here, and it's time to read another story. So today we have some special guests. We have Kylie. Come say hi, come sit up with me.
Hi.
And we have Peyton. Come on, buddy.
Hi.
There we go. And Elsie, do you want to come see us a little bit? Come on. Oh. Say hi to the camera. Okay. And Kylie, you have a book for us? Okay, it's Amelia Bedelia Goes Camping. Let's start with page 1. Alright, Amelia Bedelia. It's going to be kind of hard to see, for the camera to see. Maybe we'll just kind of read it and everybody can kind of follow along. Hurry up, Amelia Bedelia, called Mr. Rogers. I'm coming, said Amelia Bedelia. Did we get everything? Asked Mrs. Rogers. I would say so, says Amelia Bedelia. Hi. Good, said Mr. Rogers. It's time to hit the road. Hit the road? Asked Amelia Bedelia. All right, she picked up a stick and Amelia Bedelia hit the road. See, she's hitting the road with a stick. Where's she going?
And she told us to hit the road, like drive it.
Yes.
On the road.
Stop that, shouted Mr. Rogers. Get into the car. Amelia Bedelia got into the car. I'm so excited, she said. I've never been camping. You will have fun, said Mrs. Rogers. See him in the car?
Yeah.
Getting ready to get in the car to go. They rode for a long time. Finally, Mr. Rogers stopped the car. Wake up, Amelia Bedelia, said Mrs. Rogers. This is it. Amelia Bedelia looked all around. But where's the camp? She asked. The camp is in the car, said Mr. Rogers. How are they going to camp in the car? That doesn't look like a camper. You see that?
They think they're going to sleep in the car.
In the car?
But they're really going to sleep in the tent, which is they pitched the tent.
Okay, let's find out. In the car, said Amelia Bedelia. We're going to camp in the car. The things we need to make the camp are in the car.
Don't let her touch it, Dad.
Here.
Grab her fingers so she won't.
There. You stay off the ladder. We're trying to read. We're going to camp in the car. The things we need to make the camp are in the car, said Mr. Rogers. Make the camp, said Amelia Bedelia. We have to make the camp. And here, they're getting everything out of the car. Are we reading? Just forget it, said Mr. Rogers. I'll put the tent here. We can pitch it later. All right, said Amelia Bedelia. Now let's have some fun, said Mr. Rogers. Let's catch some fish. I've never caught fish, said Amelia Bedelia. Is it like catching a ball? Mr. Rogers laughed. It's more fun, he said. I will show you how. And here, they're getting their fishing waders on and their fishing poles. Going to go try to catch some fish. You see that? He's got his net and a bucket. Let's see if he can figure out how to fish.
Elsie.
Did you bring any cookies? Asked Mrs. Rogers. Yes, said Amelia Bedelia. I made up a new kind. Amelia Bedelia got the cookies. Chocolate, said Mr. Rogers. My favorite. He took a bite. They are so crunchy, he said. That's the potato chips, said Amelia Bedelia. I do love potato chips. I put in a whole bag. I call them chocolate chip cookies. Now that's kind of funny. You don't put chips in your cookies.
I know, then it makes it super
Crunchy. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers looked at each other. Call them what you like, said Mrs. Rogers. Just make them often. Bring them along and follow me, said Mr. Rogers. Let's find a good fishing spot. Yep, there you go. They walked along the bank. After a bit, Mr. Rogers stopped. He looked at the water. This looks good, he said. Do you think this looks like a good spot? Will you be able to find any fish?
Yep, Amelia Bedelia does.
Okay, let's get some. Amelia Bedelia stopped. I see one. I see a fish, she said. I'll catch it. Wait, said Mr. Rogers. But Mr. Rogers was too late. Amelia Bedelia was in the water. Look, she's trying to jump in the water. She is silly.
I know, she is very silly. Because she tries to do everything he tells him not to do.
Here, fishy, she called. Then she grabbed the fish. I caught it, she yelled. What a big one, said Mrs. Rogers. Amelia Bedelia looked at the fish. The fish looked at Amelia Bedelia. All right, said Amelia Bedelia. Away you go. The fish swam away. Amelia Bedelia, yelled Mr. Rogers. Why did you do that? And here she caught one, and we know that she lets it go. Amelia Bedelia looked surprised. Why not, she said. You just said to catch a fish. I did that. Oh, go away, said Mr. Rogers. Thank you, said Amelia Bedelia. I am wet. I do need to change. Amelia Bedelia started to leave. Oh, Amelia Bedelia, said Mrs. Rogers. Please start a fire in the grill. Use pine cones to start it, said Mr. Rogers, and put on some coffee. All right, said Amelia Bedelia. So she's going to go change, and she's going to put on some coffee. On the grill. Do you think she's going to put pine cones in the coffee or something funny? Amelia Bedelia walked to the car. She changed into dry clothes. Now, said Amelia Bedelia, I'll surprise Mr. Rogers. I'll pitch that tent. She walked over to the tent. Shoot, said Amelia Bedelia. I can't even lift it. Need some help, said someone. Amelia Bedelia turned around. Who are you, she asked. I'm Harry, said one boy. I'm Mike, said the other boy. I'm Amelia Bedelia, said Amelia Bedelia. And here are the boys. Maybe they'll help.
They will help.
Will they?
Yep.
Okay.
And then I'll pitch the tent.
Oh, good.
Pinch.
Pinch it? Like pinch?
No, like pitch.
Pitch. Ah. Amelia Bedelia said, Harry, we've heard about you. You have, said Amelia Bedelia. That's nice. Now will you help me pitch this tent? Where do you want to pitch it? Asked Mike. The big thing is to pitch it, said Amelia Bedelia. It can come down where it wants to. The boys grinned at each other. Okay, let's do it, said Harry. They caught hold of the tent. They all picked it up. And now they picked up the tent.
And then they're going to pitch it into the bushes.
And they pitched that tent. Hooray, said Amelia Bedelia, we did it. Maybe we should pitch it again, said Mike. Why, said Amelia Bedelia. It's in the bushes, said Harry. That's a good place for it, said Amelia Bedelia. It's out of the way. Out of the way? You can't sleep in the bushes with the birds.
No, you can't.
No, you have to find a flat spot on the ground to set it.
You're right. Yeah. She is funny, funny, funny.
Hey, said Mike. Mama's calling us. Thank you for helping me, said Amelia Bedelia. She watched the boys go. I had better get that fire started, said Amelia Bedelia. She got some wood and pine cones. She put them in the grill. And she's getting the fire started, ready to go. There go the boys. Saying bye. Live and learn, said Amelia Bedelia. I didn't know pine cones could start a fire. I want to see this. Amelia Bedelia sat down. She waited and waited, but the fire did not start. Suddenly she jumped up. The coffee, she said. I forgot to put on the coffee. She poured the coffee on the pine cones. Now it should start, she said. Oh dear. There's the coffee on the pine cones and sticks
will start.
in the grill.
She has to start it with matches.
Don't give away all the secrets. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers walked up. Why isn't the fire burning? Asked Mrs. Rogers. The pine cones haven't started it yet, said Amelia Bedelia. Did you try using a match? Asked Mr. Rogers. You didn't tell me to do that, said Amelia Bedelia. Never mind, I'll do it, said Mr. Rogers. You put on some coffee. I did, said Amelia Bedelia. Did I put on enough? There's Mr. Rogers with the matches. But where's the coffee? Did you put on enough? Oh, go jump in the lake, said Mr. Rogers. Amelia Bedelia stamped her foot. I will not, she said. I have no more dry clothes. Mr. Rogers laughed. Elsie, you want to join us again? Here, jump up here.
Elsie's coming back.
Okay.
Yep. And listen.
Mr. Rogers laughed. You win, he said. Can you row a boat? Certainly, said Amelia Bedelia. Well, that was short, Elsie. Use any of the boats, said Mr. Rogers. Have fun. Here she is stamping her feet because she doesn't want to go in the lake again or talking about rowing a boat.
I just seen a really, really pretty blue bird.
Amelia Bedelia found the boats. I'll just use all of them, she said. She pushed the boats this way and that. The boats were rowed. Look at that, all different colors of them.
There's
Blue, and what's this color?
yellow.
And what's this
red,
color?
Red.
And the last one?
Purple.
Purple. Yeah, you're pink.
And I'm pink.
Amelia Bedelia went back to Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. That was fun, she said. What is next? I need the tent stakes, said Mr. Rogers. I'll get them, said Amelia Bedelia. She ran to the car. She brought back a package. Here, said Amelia Bedelia. Mr. Rogers opened the package. What in tarnation, he said. Didn't I cut them right? Asked Amelia Bedelia. They look like tents to me. She cut steak in the shape of a tent. They're tent steaks. Oh my goodness. How am I going to pitch the tent? Asked Mr. Rogers. Don't fret, said Amelia Bedelia. I pitched the tent. Mr. Rogers looked. Where is the tent? He asked. In the bushes, said Amelia Bedelia, just where it landed. And look, there's a bluebird sitting right on the tent.
And guess what? I just seen a bluebird.
You did, and it's sitting on the tent right now.
Yep.
That does it, shouted Mr. Rogers. He stamped off. Mrs. Rogers went after him. Why is he so upset? Asked Amelia Bedelia. I was just trying to help him. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers came back. It's all right, Amelia Bedelia, said Mrs. Rogers. We can sleep under the stars. Old Mr. Rogers running off in a huff. Oh dear. I'll help you get the sleeping bags, said Mr. Rogers. I can do it, said Amelia Bedelia. She went to the car. Amelia Bedelia came back slowly. She was carrying some bags. Shh, she whispered. I think they're sleeping, but how can you tell? She has bags and she thinks that they're sleeping. These look like grocery bags, like paper shopping bags.
They're not.
They might be.
Bags. They're
Mr. and
bags.
Mrs. Rogers stared at Amelia Bedelia. Then Mrs. Rogers said, Never mind, Amelia Bedelia. I'll get this camp ship-shape, said Mr. Rogers. That sounds like fun, said Amelia Bedelia. What kind of ship-shape will we make? You have done enough, said Mr. Rogers. I'll do this. Amelia Bedelia walked away. I don't know much about camping, she said, but I do know one thing. It's time to eat. And here she is with the 2 baskets, ready to eat.
Yep.
Amelia Bedelia bustled around. She did this and that. Finally, she had everything ready. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers called Amelia Bedelia. It's time to eat. I'm sure ready, said Mrs. Rogers. She and Mr. Rogers came. And here she is with her sandwiches and pudding and fruit, all sorts of goodies.
Pudding?
Well, it looks like pudding. Is that pudding, or maybe it's like cookie dough or something?
It looks like maybe some cut up peaches.
Cut up peaches. Okay. Be like peach sauce instead of applesauce.
Or it could be apple.
It could be applesauce.
We'll just call it applesauce.
Fried chicken, stuffed eggs, said Mr. Rogers. What a feast. All 3 ate and ate. Now I'm stuffed, said Mr. Rogers. There's one more thing, said Amelia Bedelia. I'll go get it. Wow, look at this feast they have. The whole blanket spread with food. Sounds so yummy. Eating chicken and stuffed eggs. Soon she came back singing, Happy birthday to you. My birthday, said Mr. Rogers. I forgot my birthday. Blow out the candles, said Mrs. Rogers, and cut the cake. Mr. Rogers did just that. Then he said, Amelia Bedelia, this is the best camping trip ever. Amelia Bedelia smiled. Let's do it again, she said. I do love camping. And here she is with the cake, singing happy birthday, and just the mountains in the background while they're camping.
The pretty purple and blue,
Yes.
green.
And the cloud in the sky. Oh, and look, there's the tent that was pitched in the bushes.
Turn around, show 'em.
There's the tent that's in the bushes right there, and the pretty mountains.
That's pink. That's blue and... Be quiet. Don't miss purple.
That's okay. And oh, well, that was it. That was the end. I do love camping, she said, and then they were done camping.
And we have another
And
book.
that was all for that one. Thank you for watching Uncle Brandon read, and I had Kylie and Peyton here helping me today.
And then we
So
have
we'll see
one
you-
more book.
Okay, we'll do another.